always heaven, baby.
Hello. Seth, founder of Momentum U. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a great one. We're in the middle of a series and we're talking about when business is booming. And it's one of those things. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of business owners. That's one of my specialties with Momentum U, is helping them actually get from their reality to their vision. It's a big deal. When you can get there and live the life that you were supposed to live as a business owner. When you thought about going in business, what did you envision? And what is it actually like now? But regardless of that, we're going to look at what is hiding when business is booming. It's something that people miss all the time. And I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. So I want you to think about this. Imagine you're having your best year ever. And a lot of people that I know and talk to are having an amazing year. So the question that I would have is, how do you define an amazing year? Is it by sales? Is it by net profit? Is it by your stress levels? Is it by how many vacations you take? Is it by buying new equipment? What makes it a great year? So imagine that everything feels great. Maybe for you, sales are up. Maybe that's how you define it. You're booked out for months. You have work, maybe booked into the next year. The growth feels great. It's exciting. You're energized. But is there still something missing? So what we're going to look at today, hopefully what we cover today will help make you think. Is there something hiding from you? And how do you prevent it? And how do you keep it from showing up later? So when we think about business, if business is booming, how do you make sure you're not making mistakes right now? And this is a big deal. There's a lot at stake when you think about, hey, if I'm making mistakes right now, where are they going to show up? So if you follow me and you've seen some of the things that I've done, you would know that I own a handful of different companies. One of them is actually a service business. So one of the ways I look at myself is I'm a blue collar CEO. I have the combination of degrees and the hard knock life experience. And I really like the combo of the two because I have the ability to, grew up through the trenches and learned, from operating equipment to understanding the business and the struggles of cash flow and everything that goes on in a business. But yet combining that with example like an executive MBA from Villanova, being able to see corporate strategy in the larger, bigger picture of everything. So these are some things, again, that combine just to show who I am. But we had in one of my companies, service business, it was around 2014, and we had a sales explosion. I mean, things were crazy. We could sell anything that who we talked to, we sold. It was great. It kind of reminds me a little bit now of what's happening with the COVID situation in the service business. It could be swimming pools. It could be painting. It could be grounds maintenance. It could be building, new construction, paving. Any of these areas, business is booming, and there's an explosion. I mean, you talk to somebody, if you can get them on the schedule, they will choose you. If you can relate to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what do you do? How do you handle that? What adjustments are you making? Are you making quick adjustments to get the sale because you know if you can get them on the schedule, you can collect that deposit? These are things that are happening right now as we speak in the market. And it reminds me of 2014 when I saw some of these same things in one of my companies. But I want to ask you, are you aware of your kryptonite? And you may say, what is that? Well, do you know? Do you know what your kryptonite is in your business? For us, it was snow. So part of our contracts, and we handled hundreds of acres of property, and part of that was with snow removal. And if you know snow removal, that is no small task. But as we took on service work, some of the contracts were combined with these type of the snow removal contracts, and we ended up overbooking things. We didn't do poorly until 2015 when we had over 3 feet of snow. Now, if you know anything again about snow, 3 feet is a lot to move anywhere. And when you combine that with hundreds of acres of driveways, parking lots, sidewalks, it becomes a big task. So for a 2 or 3 inch or 6 inch storm, it might not be a big deal. But when you talk about 3 feet of snow, I mean, it's so much. That year, we lost almost 2/3 of our contracts due to poor performance. We just couldn't keep up. And they needed somebody to blame, to take the heat. Why wasn't it quick enough? We had a 100-acre property that we cleared in 36 hours, and it wasn't fast enough. So one of the things that I learned, so what do you take away from this? What did I learn from this? There's the booms and business can be good, but sometimes during that time, you lose track of some of the most important areas in your business. So I want to examine the example that I shared in the case that we had, and hopefully you can connect it a little bit to your business. We love the growth. It's addicting. It's really exciting. Who doesn't like growth? We bought trucks, we bought equipment, we hired people. It was fun. You know, we were the talk of the town in the sense of like, where are all these trucks coming from? Where are all these people we were hiring? It was a great time. But when you think about it, we didn't understand at the time the cash demands. Growth requires a significant amount of cash. It burns cash very quickly. You think it's bad if you don't have the sales. When you grow, you have to have the capital to do it. Because we had work, we had to hire people. The people that we hired were not the people that were best for the job. We had work to fill, so we needed to find people. So if you could show up and you seemed like you were decent, we were hiring you. All mistakes that we overlooked because of the growth. So when I look at this, excuse me, when I look at the COVID example and how business is booming, I can see some of these things happening. And I want you to take a step back and say, is this me? Am I overlooking something? We bought old equipment because that's what we could afford at the time. And it broke when we needed it most. Maybe you can relate. Equipment is expensive. And when you talk about some of this equipment that you need, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And some of it starts at $50,000 or $60,000 and goes up to hundreds of thousands. It's a lot of money. So if you buy something that's somebody else's junk, you're going to get the result of that. When we bought new equipment, we didn't realize that it was a 5-year deal on some of these things. And if we didn't maintain the client for that period of time, we lost, one, the depreciation, and we lost the value in the equipment. We had to sell it. All of this is bad, bad, bad. And you're saying, well, this is crazy. How does this relate to me? Well, when you are in the game, when you're having these years where you're killing it and business is good, it's so important to see and understand what's happening, what's going on behind the scenes. Because what you really need to look at and what you really need to see is how are the decisions that you're making today, right now, going to affect you in the future? And I've been there. How does the rapid growth affect your quality of your work? We trusted new people without training them to manage the accounts. Even the accounts that we didn't lose because of snow, we lost because of poor quality. And you're saying, man, this was a disaster. It was a bad thing. But my goal as a business coach is to help you see that, are you in this spot right now? Are things going really well and you're selling like crazy and your business is growing, or so you think? It's a really scary thing. And I don't like to talk about the problem side of things, but it's important to understand what is actually happening. Again, you're thinking by now, this is a disaster. This is terrible. You're exactly correct. It was a bad time. But I want you to know that I lived through this and I navigated the ship during this time for one of our companies. If you want to avoid the same challenges, I would encourage you to look at this COVID boom and examine yourself. Are you doing the same things? So as you grow, your challenges are only going to get magnified. This really makes me think of when I was growing up, I grew up in a small town of Grantville. It's in Pennsylvania. And I was a giant kid, big kid, tall kid. When I was about 8 years old, I walked into the local store and they asked me if I wanted to work. So at 8 years old, I looked like I was 14 or 16. I was a big kid. So I wasn't allowed to work because that would have been against the law. But they were allowed to let me work outside. So I did some stuff outside, picking up trash, keeping the place looking good. So I did that. Over the years, I got to know the owners of the grocery store and, small town. But as they expanded, business was booming. Again, that's what we're talking about. Business booming. And they expanded to a second store. Ultimately, it took their business under. So me being a business person, I said, I caught the owner one day and I said, what went wrong? And I'll never forget, he said, we never fixed the existing problems. We never fixed what went wrong at a small level. We continued, as we grew, it just magnified. It took us out. So we should have fixed them when we could. So let's stop for a minute. What do you know needs fixed in your business right now? Why are you pushing it off? How much is that costing you? Do you know what it's costing you? Every single day that you wait, it's costing. I would encourage you to go to explosivemomentum.com and see what we offer if we can help you. One of the things, again, and I want you to think about that. I'm actually gonna, there's a couple other things, all those things, and I'm off the camera a second. Have to power up a second. But when you think about these things, are you overlooking the simple things? Are you overlooking the things that don't seem problems? Because when I talk to business owners, and I appreciate your patience right there as I, plugged into some power, all this tech stuff, you got to have juice everywhere. But when you think about you want to grow and you want to grow your business and your vision is where you want it to go, you cannot get to your vision. You can't get there if you don't address the small challenges right now. And that story of that grocery store, when they opened up to the second one, business was booming and it killed their business because they didn't address the situations and the things that they needed to address at the time. So, what is that for you? What needs to be fixed in your business? And I'll take that one step further. What needs to be fixed in your business that you're not aware of? Think about that. What are you doing to have candid feedback and a look in your business that's going to save you from going out of business? That's a powerful statement. So it's one thing if you know, that's easy. You know that there's a problem. There's another thing if you don't know. I made a momentum moment the other day of the people that are addicted to the struggle. When you think about the struggle, addiction to the struggle, we get into a rut where you've struggled for so long. That's actually what you know. So you're actually trained to be in that. And when this sounds crazy, but stick with me here. When you have to go to the other side, the successful side, all the mindset, the brain waves, everything, you're not used to that. You want it, but you haven't had practice winning. So that's something that you might not even be aware of, that you've trained yourself to stay in the struggle. You say, well, that just doesn't make sense. It can happen. Trust me. How are you holding your company back during this boom? Again, I'm asking you to think about these things. Are you investing in a plan? Are you rushing ahead to serve the customer? The customer is always right, right? Is that really true? Or do you need to be making the best plan for your business so that you can ultimately serve the customer? One of my favorite things from one of my coaches said, when I was looking at doing all different things, whether it was executive coaching to speaking to, all sorts of different things, she said that you have to be the best you in order to serve your customer. So you have to take care of yourself, and you put yourself first. And at first I struggled with that in the beginning, because I always wanted to put either the customer or our staff or whatever before myself. And I realized that there's power behind that. If I show up energized for you today, of me being my best self, that could help somebody. That could help you if you're in this spot. So that's really important. Are you rushing ahead to serve the customer? Do you want to jump in line of the other customer or of the other companies because you can service them faster? Is that a long-term plan, or is that going to fall apart when you rush to hire people, rush to get equipment? Are you missing some of the big costs? So, when you think about this, are you doing the work while it's available, and then you're going to deal with the consequences later? What if there isn't a later? What if you don't have a later? It's really some things to think about. So, let's say you've made it. You're having a great year. You're hitting your revenue numbers. Another question I want you to think about, are things different? Some of my favorites when I talk to business owners are, if I just get to this revenue, or if I close this many customers, if I have these many deals, if I have a backlog that's 6 months, if I have a backlog that's a year, it'll relieve some of my stress. It'll make life better for me. But now you're there. Is it everything that it was cracked up to be? Most people, it isn't. It's chasing the next thing. So I would encourage you to say, what do you really want in your business? What's really going to get you there? Because again, that's an illusion. That's some of the other things I talk about. That's an illusion. How's your bank account? Is there extra, or is it still tight? Because remember, business is booming now. When I talk to people, they say that they're busier than ever. Are you making more money than ever? Are the challenges that you had when you were a smaller organization, or you didn't have this boom, did they go away, or are they magnified? Take a minute and think about this. These are all questions that you need to be asking yourself. I work hard to build relationships with business owners and have meaningful conversations. The ones that you can't have in your networking group because you have a mask on. The one that you have to say, yeah, business is great, it's doing well. The ones that people don't see because you're busier than ever, but you really need help figuring out, why is it still not working? I have so much business. I'm busier than ever, but my bank account is still broke. If this is you, let's hop on a call. Look at what I do. This is exactly what I teach and help business owners with. Go to explosivemomentum.com and hop on. Look at some of my training. See my style. Obviously, you can see it here. But hop on. look at it, and then after you do that, book a call with my team. They slice through things and see things that like you might not be able to see yourself. When you can see it, you can fix it. You can work on it. It makes things easier. You can improve. You can take your current reality to your vision. Yes, business is booming, but what does that mean? Is your life booming in abundance? Are you doing the things that you want to do? Are you spending the time with the people that you want to spend time with? Man, there's so much stuff here. Because if business is booming and that's not happening, you need to take a look at some things. Really. So I want to explore some detrimental areas that might be hiding from you while your business is booming. 1, poor cash flow management. If so much money is coming in with deposits or whatever it may be, you may not be managing the cash the way that you should, which can be detrimental. How about your personal growth opportunities? Are you continually growing as a leader, or are you just so busy in this boom that your personal development has stopped? Personal development can't stop. It is something that you can't stop doing. If you do, it has a huge impact on your organization. What about buying items or equipment that you can't afford? You don't really know your financial status because there's so much money flying around. And then you buy things that are going to put you in a predicament, to say the least, later. What about not making time for big impact items? What about training and safety? Training, I found in my organizations, could be, is one of the best investments that you can have as a business owner. And it's one area that is lacking, whether it's for the owner or CEO or the leader or the team, for operations, how to deliver, best practices, confidence. I was at a job this summer. We have a bunch of different companies. One of them is a construction and pool install. I mean, there's a ton of different things that we do. But I stopped out on one of the jobs, and there was the owner doing some decking. And the guy came back and he said, I could do this in this amount of time. And that is probably true. 1, it's degrading to your staff. Who wants to work for a guy that's like always saying those type of things? There's one thing for a production rate. That's a fair thing across the board. There's another thing that the owner can do that's been doing it for 30 years. And obviously they can do it quicker than somebody that's making $15 an hour. There's no comparison. So when I think about that, how are you training the person? Because the person that knows what they're doing and is confident and has training actually can be a lot closer to that owner. Sometimes can be faster depending on what the skill is. So are you investing in training, or is there just so much money right now that like you don't care about it, but you don't really know it's costing you because there's so much money? That's what happens when business is booming. It's detrimental to your business. You're not growing your company. How about rushing decisions, the lack of team meetings, the lack of communications? You stop talking and communicating because you're so busy. You got to get to this client. You got to get to that. Those things have to stay standard. Culture issues that are brewing below the surface. Building with the wrong team. I talked about that, some of my experience of having the work and having to grow and hiring the wrong team. It doesn't work out. One of the things we focus on is hiring high character individuals. Very simple. There's a lot of things that go to that. I mean, since we've been doing that, we've noticed better attendance, better attitude, less claims on things. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things of the way it benefits your business. So are you thinking about how you're building your organization with the right people? Or are you rushing to serve that customer because if you get them before the other person, they'll sign if you can deliver the work? That's not strategically growing your business. Are you focused on the short term? I mean, I'm covering a lot of things, but hopefully these things, some of them click. You're so busy that you just focus on the day-to-day of what you need to solve and what fire. You know, you have the fire hose out and you're putting it out. Are you neglecting your family? You're so busy, but this is the promised land. It's not, let me tell you. If you haven't put together a plan and COVID wasn't in your plan and you know exactly how you're handling it, it's not the promised land. There's ups and downs in business. What about your stress levels? Are they being raised or elevated? Are you wearing yourself down? Are you not keeping an eye on the profit because you're not job costing your jobs? There's a lot here. When business is booming, there is a lot to lose track of. If you're not job costing your jobs, you don't know if you're making money, maybe until you hand your stuff over to your accountant. And you did all that work. And I've had some, and this is sad, this year for 2020 say, I did all this work and I didn't get the return. I did all this work and I didn't make the money. Don't let the accountant tell you what it is. How about this? This is one of my favorites. Everybody, when business is booming, rushes so much to get that extra work. Have you adjusted your prices for the demand? I would rather keep the same amount of work or the same size and double my profit margin. If you want to double your profit margin, it's one thing I specialize in. I can guarantee you that we'll add 5% to your net profit, probably just with a couple simple tweaks. If you like that, book a call with my team. We'll show you how to do it. I guarantee it. It's pretty simple if you know business, as long as you're committed to making the changes and the adjustments. If you add 5% more profit to your business, if you're $1 million organization or 5 or 10, what does that do? If you're 50, what does that do to you? Growth costs money. So in the boom, people lose track of growing their organization and spending money for the growth, which in turn sucks their cash out. And when things don't go quite right, it implodes. This is heavy stuff. This is really heavy stuff. What's your plan? COVID is a common thing that we talk about. COVID was not in our plan, so it's worth the conversation to explore. Do we have a plan? How have you adjusted? And what's the plan moving forward? And then how are you investing in the future? What does that look like? So there's a lot more than this. These are a couple things that I covered that are hopefully helpful, make you think. There's two things that I want you to do. If you're busier than ever and business is booming, but something still seems off, this is what I want you to do. First, I want you to set time aside to reflect. Write down what your current reality is. And that means stress. That means if you're tight on cash flow, nobody's going to look at this. This is between you and the piece of paper or you and your Google Doc. Write down what your current reality is. Not what you tell people when you go to a networking event. Not what you tell people when they ask you how business is. The real reality. Write down what that reality is. And I want you to lean into anything that you do not like. So if there's something there that is really bothering you, whether it's cash flow, employees, really notice what that is. And then I want you to think about what's your business vision. What are the steps you're taking to connect your current reality, so everything that you're dealing with right now, to your business vision? And the one thing that does not count as an answer is by doing the work. Because what most people do is, as tickets come in, as jobs come in, as they give estimates, they go do the work. That's not a plan. That's not being strategic. That's not going to get you to your vision. If you're tired of being in the same spot if you connect with some of these challenges, if you don't even know that you have some of these challenges, or you just know that something is off, but you're not sure. Maybe it's just your relationship at home. Maybe it's the stress that is elevated because your business is booming. What I want you to do is go to explosivemomentum.com. I'd like you to watch my training that I have there. And when you do that, you'll be able to set up a strategy call with my team. Because what I want to help you do is understand maybe what you might not be seeing, maybe what you're missing. There might be something that you're missing that's so simple that can change your business. Not just for this year, but forever. There's simple things that can be done. So go to explosivemomentum.com, check that, or send me a message. Message me now if you want to set up a call and talk about this, because there's nothing better than getting an outside perspective. Not from your friends, not from somebody that knows you, but an objective, candid perspective that can help you succeed. I want you to win. I want you to have explosive momentum. And that starts by you going to explosivemomentum.com, checking it out, seeing how we can be a fit and help you maybe see something that you can do while your business is booming that will keep it booming. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of this. Tag it, share it. Let me know what you think. I'm always here for your help. Thanks again.